Hey everybody, welcome back to Historical-ish. This is episode 12 of the Ancient Mysteries Iceberg. We finally made it to the last part. Thank you for everybody who's been watching and stuck around and continued to watch throughout the series. And thanks to everyone who's joined the Discord server. It's been a lot of fun getting to hear a lot of the theories and various perspectives among the viewers. If you haven't already and want to join the Discord server, there will be a link down in the description below, so definitely check that out. But without further ado, let's get into this final part. Number 11. St. Thomas silver coins in India. According to the Christian Bible, after Judas betrayed Jesus by identifying him to the Roman authorities, he received 30 pieces of silver as payment. The Bible does not explicitly state what happened to the 30 pieces of silver after Judas received them. However, in the Gospel of Matthew, it is recorded that after Jesus was arrested and condemned to death, Judas felt remorse and returned the money to the chief priests and elders who had paid him. They refused to take it back and instead used it to purchase a field known as the Potter's Field to bury strangers in. In the Gospel of Acts, it is suggested that Judas himself used the money to purchase a field and that he met a gruesome end in that same field. The exact fate of these silver coins is not specified in this account either. So the main question here is what happened to those lost pieces of silver? There are a couple of different theories that explain what could have happened to these lost pieces of silver. As I mentioned earlier, the Gospel of Matthew states that the chief priests and elders used the money to purchase the field known as the Potter's Field. This theory is widely accepted by many scholars and historians. Some scholars speculate that the 30 pieces of silver may have been returned to the Roman treasury by the chief priests and elders, who were afraid that the money was tainted by its association with Jesus and Judas. However, there is no direct evidence to support this theory. Another theory is that the chief priests and elders may have distributed the 30 pieces of silver to the poor as a way of making amends for their role in Jesus' crucifixion. This theory is also not widely accepted as there's no direct evidence to support it. Some other scholars suggest that the 30 pieces of silver may have been used to fund the early Christian community, which was struggling to survive in the years following Jesus' death. This theory is based on the fact that the book of Acts describes the disciples as pooling their resources together to support themselves and their mission. Again, there's no direct evidence to support this theory. And finally, another theory is that the 30 pieces of silver were hidden or lost over time, and their whereabouts remain unknown. This theory cannot be entirely ruled out due to the amount of accounts of different people across the globe claiming to have these pieces of silver. Now, the validity behind these accounts is the questionable aspect. One account tells of 4 of the pieces of silver being in India after St. Thomas traveled here to preach and establishing churches throughout the region. According to this account, the coins are said by locals to have the ability to heal people and have been passed down through generations, but still kept secret with fear of robbery or persecution, as throughout history, many people have tried to come and steal the coins, as this is one of the only accounts of these coins still being around. Other than this account, I found not much else is known about the location of these silver pieces, and in general, it's just up for grabs whether or not these still exist or even existed at all. Number 12, the Griffin Warrior Tomb. The Griffin Warrior Tomb is a fascinating archaeological discovery made in 2015 in the area of Pylos in southwestern Greece. The tomb was found by an international team of archaeologists led by Jack Davis and Sharon Stocker from the University of Cincinnati during excavations of the Palace of Nestor, which was a Mycenaean palace complex. The tomb dates back to around 1500 BC during the late Helladic period, and it is named after the unique artifacts found inside, including a bronze mirror with an ivory handle depicting a griffin. The tomb also contained jewelry made of gold, silver, and precious stones, as well as weapons including swords and daggers. The tomb was constructed using a combination of large stones and smaller pebbles, and it had a small entrance that led to a narrow corridor. The main chamber of the tomb was circular in shape with a diameter of about 4.5 meters. The walls of the tomb were covered in plaster, which had previously been painted with decorative motifs. The tomb contained the remains of a male individual who was between 30 and 35 years old at the time of his death. The individual was buried with a variety of grave goods, including jewelry, weapons, and various other items. One of the most striking artifacts found in the tomb was the aforementioned Griffin mirror, thought to be one of the earliest depictions of a griffin in the art of the ancient world. In general, the variety and quality of the grave goods suggest that the individual buried in the tomb was a person of high status and importance, potentially a member of the ruling class at the Palace of Nestor, such as a prince or high-ranking official. Others speculate that the individual may have been a foreign dignitary or a merchant who traded with the Mycenaeans. The jewelry found in the tomb includes objects made with materials that were likely imported from other parts of the Mediterranean world, such as amber from the Baltic region, lapis lazuli from Afghanistan, and carnelian from the Arabian Peninsula. The presence of these objects suggests that the Mycenaeans had access to a wide range of trade networks and were actively engaged in long-distance commerce. The discovery of the tomb also sheds light on the artistic practices of the Mycenaean civilization. The decorative motifs painted on the walls of the tomb are similar to those found on other Mycenaean objects, such as pottery and frescoes. The discovery of the Griffin mirror is particularly significant as it is one of the earliest known depictions of this mythical creature in the ancient art world. And what's most fascinating about this find is that it puts the Mycenaean trade network centuries older than what it was originally thought to have been. Number 13, the Holy Prepuce. The Holy Prepuce, or the foreskin of Jesus Christ, has been the subject of religious lore and speculation for centuries. There are various legends and theories about the history and whereabouts of this relic, but the truth behind these stories is obviously shrouded in uncertainty. According to Christian tradition, Jesus was circumcised 8 days after his birth in accordance with Jewish law, and the foreskin was removed during the circumcision and was preserved. This relic was said to have been passed down through various hands over the centuries, and it has been the subject of veneration and pilgrimage for many people throughout history. The earliest known references to the Holy Prepuce date back to the 4th century when the church father St. Jerome wrote about it in his commentary on the Gospel of Matthew. He noted that the Holy Prepuce was kept in a golden reliquary in the Basilica of the Nativity in Bethlehem, and that it was venerated by both Christians and Jews alike. Over the centuries, various churches and monasteries claimed to possess this Holy Prepuce, and it was often the subject of controversy and dispute. In the Middle Ages, the relic was said to have been held by various European rulers, including Charlemagne and Barbarossa. In the 16th century, the Holy Prepuce became the subject of renewed interest, and various churches and religious orders vied for possession of the relic. One of the most famous cases involved the town of Calcutta in Italy, where the Holy Prepuce was said to have been kept in a small church. However, the relic was stolen in 1983 and has never been recovered. Obviously, there's a lot of debate around this, so some general theories are as follows. One theory is that the Holy Prepuce was destroyed or lost during the various wars and conflicts that have taken place over the centuries. For example, some believe that the relic was destroyed during the sack of Rome in 1527 or lost during the turmoil of the Reformation. Some others speculate that the Holy Prepuce is still in the possession of the Catholic Church and may be kept in a secret location, possibly in the Vatican or in one of the many churches or monasteries associated with the relic. There are also some various claims over the years by individuals who say that they possess the Holy Prepuce, but none of these claims have ever been substantiated. It is possible that the relic is in the possession of a private collector or institution, but there is no evidence to support this theory. And then finally, some scholars and skeptics have suggested that the Holy Prepuce was a myth or legend that was created in the Middle Ages to promote religious devotion and pilgrimage. They argue that there is no historical or scientific evidence to support the existence of this relic. Number 14. Apollonius of Tyana. Apollonius was a Greek philosopher and mystic who lived during the 1st century AD. He was born in Tyana, a city in Cappadocia, which is now part of modern-day Turkey. Apollonius is best known for his teachings on religion, philosophy, and the supernatural, as well as his supposed miraculous powers. Apollonius was a well-traveled individual who visited many parts of the ancient world, including India and Ethiopia. During his travels, he met with various sages, scholars, and religious leaders and learned about different philosophies and religious beliefs. He was known for his ascetic lifestyle, living a simple life, and advocating for vegetarianism. Apollonius was also said to have had the ability to communicate with animals and heal the sick, as well as other supernatural powers. According to some accounts, he was able to predict the future and perform miracles such as raising the dead. As a philosopher, Apollonius believed in the importance of living a virtuous life and pursuing knowledge and wisdom. He rejected traditional religious practices and beliefs, and instead advocated for a more personal, mystical approach to spirituality. Apollonius also believed in the existence of an immortal soul and the importance of achieving spiritual enlightenment. His teachings were heavily influenced by the Pythagorean and Neoplatonic schools of philosophy. One of the most interesting aspects of Apollonius' life is his relationship to Christianity. He was a contemporary of Jesus, and some have suggested that he may have been an inspiration for some of the stories in the New Testament. However, there is no concrete evidence to support this claim, and the stories of Apollonius are often considered more legendary than historical. Some have even suggested that Apollonius was a rival to Jesus, or even a member of a secret religious society that opposed the early Christian church. It is worth noting that many of the stories about Apollonius are based on legendary and mythical accounts rather than historical fact. The earliest surviving biography of Apollonius was written by Philostratus in the 3rd century AD, and is largely based on earlier sources and oral traditions. Some historians believe that Philostratus' account was intended to promote Apollonius as a rival to Jesus and a figure worthy of veneration. Others have argued that Apollonius was a real historical figure, but that many of the stories about him were exaggerated or just invented over time. Either way, he's still a fascinating individual with a crazy history. Number 15, Asherah. Asherah was one of the many gods and goddesses worshipped in the ancient Near East, particularly in Canaanite and Israelite cultures. She was a mother goddess who was often associated with fertility, childbirth, and the nurturing of life. She was also closely linked to the earth and the natural world, and was sometimes depicted as a tree or a pole. In the ancient Canaanite religion, Asherah was the consort of the god El, who was considered the father of all gods. In this context, Asherah was seen as a nurturing mother figure who supported and sustained the world. She was also associated with the sea and the underworld, and was believed to have power over both life and death. As the Israelites emerged as a distinct culture within the broader Canaanite world, their religion began to take shape, and they began to develop their own understanding of the gods and goddesses. In the Hebrew Bible, Asherah is mentioned as the consort of the god Baal, and is sometimes described as a foreign god whose worship was condemned by the Israelites. The relationship between Asherah and ancient Israel is a topic of much debate among scholars. Some argue that she was a major goddess in Israelite religion, while others maintain that her worship was always on the fringes of society, or that she was simply a symbol of religious syncretism. One theory that has been proposed to explain the presence of Asherah in ancient Israelite religion is that she was adopted from the Canaanites, who worshipped her as a major deity. This theory suggests that the Israelites, as they emerged as a distinct culture, adopted and adapted the Canaanite gods and goddesses to fit their own religious beliefs and practices. Another theory is that Asherah was actually part of earlier Israelite religion and was worshipped alongside Yahweh as a co-equal deity. This theory is based in part on the many references to Asherah that appear in the Hebrew Bible, as well as on archaeological evidence that suggests that her worship was widespread in ancient Israel. One piece of evidence that has been used to support the idea that Asherah was an important goddess in ancient Israel is the discovery of inscriptions and artifacts that mention her name. For example, there are a few instances of inscriptions bearing Asherah within it, all inscribing the following: Yahweh and his Asherah. Additionally, a number of figurines and other artifacts depicting a female figure with raised arms, possibly representing Asherah, have been found at various archaeological sites throughout Israel. These artifacts suggest that the worship of Asherah was not limited to the fringes of society, but was widespread and deeply rooted in the Israelite culture. Despite the evidence that suggests that Asherah was an important goddess in ancient Israel, her worship was eventually suppressed by the Israelite religious establishment. The prophets of the Hebrew Bible frequently condemn the worship of foreign gods, including Asherah, and call for the destruction of idols and other objects associated with her worship. Number 16. Cromlech of Almendres. The Cromlech of Almendres is an ancient megalithic site located in the region of Évora, Portugal. It consists of a circular arrangement of over 90 standing stones dating back to the Neolithic period, approximately 6,000 to 4,500 years ago. Despite the site's age, its purpose remains a mystery to this day. But here's what we do know. The Cromlech of Almendres is estimated to have been constructed around 6,000 years ago, and the stones were quarried from nearby areas and transported to the site. The megaliths were then erected in precise positions using techniques that are still not fully understood. Some of the stones were carved with geometric motifs such as circles, spirals, and zigzag lines. The Cromlech of Almendres covers an area of approximately 70 hectares, which is about 173 acres, and consists of several stone circles, menhirs, and cromlechs. The largest circle, Cromlech dos Almendres, measures approximately 70 meters in diameter and contains 95 standing stones arranged in an oval shape. The stones are not all the same size, with the largest standing over 13 feet tall, or roughly 4 meters. The purpose of the Cromlech of Almendres is not fully understood, but it is believed to have been a religious or ritualistic in function. One theory suggests that it was used as an astronomical observatory, as many of the stones are aligned with the sun and moon. Another theory suggests that it was used as a ritual center for fertility and agricultural rites, as the stones are also aligned with the solstices and equinoxes. The Cromlech of Almendres also contains several tombs and burial sites, which suggests that it was also used as a cemetery. Many of the burials were accompanied by offerings such as pottery, flint tools, and animal bones. The Cromlech was rediscovered in the 1960s and has since been restored and preserved. It was declared a national monument in 1974 and is protected by the Portuguese government. The Cromlech is also often compared to other megalithic sites in Europe, obviously, such as Stonehenge in England and the Karnak stones in France. While each site is unique in its own way, they all share similarities in terms of size, construction techniques, and alignment with the sun and moon. And these similarities suggest there have been shared Neolithic culture in Europe that may have had similar beliefs and practices in general. I glossed over a couple of the theories about its function, so let's dive more into those. One theory suggests that the Cromlech of Almendres was used as an astronomical observatory. The alignment of the stones with the sun and moon suggests that the Neolithic people who built it were interested in tracking the movements of the celestial bodies. Some archaeologists believe that the stones were used to mark the summer and winter solstices, as well as the spring and autumn equinoxes. However, this theory has been criticized by some who argue that these stones are not precise enough to be used for astronomical observations. Another theory suggests that the Cromlech of Almendres was used as a religious or ritual center. The alignment of the stones with the sun and moon could have been part of a larger ritual cycle, which was used to mark the changing seasons and celebrate fertility and agricultural rites. The Cromlech may have been a gathering place for people from different communities to participate in religious or ritual activities. However, there is no evidence to suggest what specific religious or rituals or beliefs in general may have been associated with the site. The Cromlech of Almendres also contains several tombs and burial sites, which suggest that it may have been used as a cemetery. Many of the burials were accompanied by offerings like pottery, flint tools, and animal bones, and the presence of these burials suggests that the site had spiritual significance for the Neolithic people who used it as a burial ground. However, it is unclear how the burials and the stones were related to one another and whether they were part of some religious or ritual tradition. Some archaeologists have suggested that the Cromlech of Almendres was used as a social or political center. The size and layout of the site suggest that it was a place of importance for the Neolithic people who built it. The stones may have been used to mark the territory of different groups or to signify alliances or rivalries between communities. However, just like the other theories, there's little evidence to support this theory and remains speculative. With all the different theories about the function of this megalithic site, I think it's important to keep in mind that the Neolithic people could have possibly used this structure for many different purposes and not just one singular purpose. So none of these theories could be correct, or all of them could be correct. I personally find it hard to believe the Neolithic people would build the structure for just one singular purpose, but that's just me. Number 17, Nitocris. Nitocris is a name that appears in ancient Egyptian texts, including the Turin King List, the Karnak King List, and the Abydos King List. These texts list Nitocris as the last ruler of the 6th dynasty of Egypt, which lasted from approximately 2345 to 2181 BC. However, the existence and identity of Nitocris are a matter of debate among historians and Egyptologists. Some scholars believe that Nitocris may have been a real historical figure, while others suggest that she may have been a mythical or legendary queen, or perhaps a combination of several different queens who were conflated into one figure over time. The name Nitocris is sometimes written as Nitocris Septa in ancient Egyptian texts. The name Nitocris is believed to be a Greek corruption of her original name. According to the legend of Nitocris, she was a wise and just queen who succeeded her brother, King Papai II, who ruled over Egypt for a brief period of time. One of the most famous stories about Nitocris involves her alleged construction of a massive underground chamber in which she invited her enemies to a banquet and then flooded the chamber, drowning all of her guests. However, there is no historical evidence to support this story, and it is almost certainly a myth or legend. The story of Nitocris and the flooded chamber is sometimes attributed to a male pharaoh named Neferkari Kakai, who is believed to have ruled during the 5th dynasty of Egypt. It is possible that the story of the flooded chamber was originally associated with Neferkari and was later transferred to Nitocris. Some ancient Greek writers, including Herodotus and Manetho, wrote about Nitocris and her alleged underground chamber. However, their accounts are generally considered to be unreliable and are often dismissed as fanciful stories. The Turin King List, which lists the kings and queens of Egypt, included a Nitocris who is said to have reigned for a period of 12 years. However, the list does not prove any further details about her reign or accomplishments. Some scholars believe that Nitocris may have been a queen who ruled jointly with her husband or a female regent who ruled on behalf of a young male heir. It is possible that the name Nitocris was used as a kind of honorific or title for a powerful queen or noblewoman. In recent years, archaeologists have discovered a tomb in the Saqqara necropolis in Egypt that is believed to belong to a queen named Kintkos III, who may have lived during the 5th dynasty of Egypt. Some researchers have suggested that Kintkos III could be a historical figure behind the legend of Nitocris, although this theory remains controversial. Number 18. The Lost Roman Legion in Liqian. The story of the Lost Roman Legion in Liqian is a fascinating but controversial historical mystery that has captured the imagination of scholars and researchers for decades. The theory suggests that a group of Roman soldiers was captured by the Parthian Empire during the Battle of Carrhae in 53 BC and taken to the eastern edges of the empire, where they were eventually settled in what is now modern-day China. One of the main pieces of evidence supporting the theory is the discovery of a small number of ancient Roman artifacts in the area. These include bronze coins, Roman swords, and armor fragments that have been dated to the 1st century BC. These artifacts were discovered in the 1950s by Chinese archaeologists who were conducting excavations in the region. While the discovery of these artifacts suggests the presence of Romans in the area, some historians have questioned their authenticity and provenance. Another piece of evidence supporting the theory is the physical characteristics of the local population. The people of Liqian are said to have distinctive physical characteristics that include deep-set blue or green eyes, high-bridged nose, and fair skin. While these features could be the result of intermarriage with other groups over time, some researchers have suggested that they could be evidence of European ancestry. In addition to the Roman artifacts and physical features of the local population, There are other pieces of evidence that have been cited in support of the theory of the lost Roman legion. For example, some researchers have noted that the people of Liqian have cultural traditions and practices that bear similarities to those of the ancient Romans. These include the use of acupuncture, the practice of divination, and the belief in a god of war. There have also been linguistic studies that suggest a possible connection between the people of Liqian and the ancient Romans. One theory suggests that the name Liqian may be a corruption of the Roman name legio, meaning legion in Latin, while others have noted similarities between certain words in the local language and Latin. There are a number of theories about how a Roman legion could have made its way to China. One of the most commonly cited theories is that the Romans were captured by the Parthian Empire during the Battle of Carrhae in 53 BC. The battle was fought between the Roman Republic and the Parthian Empire and resulted in a crushing defeat for the Romans. It is believed that a number of Roman soldiers were taken prisoner by the Parthians, and it is possible that some of these prisoners were eventually taken to the eastern edges of the empire, which included parts of modern-day China. Another theory is that the Romans may have been mercenaries hired by the Chinese Han Dynasty to fight against the Xiongnu, a nomadic tribe that was threatening the borders of China. It is known that the Han Dynasty employed mercenaries from various parts of the world, including Central Asia and the Middle East. Some historians have suggested that the Romans may have been among these mercenaries, and that they were eventually settled in the area that is now Liqian. Another theory is that the Romans may have made their way to China through trade or cultural exchange. It is known that the ancient Romans were involved in extensive trade networks that extended throughout Europe, Asia, and Africa. It is possible that some Roman traders or diplomats may have made their way to China and established contact with the local population. Over time, these contacts could have led to the settlement of a small group of Romans in that region. Despite these theories, there are several issues that complicate the theory of the lost Roman legion. One of the main problems is the lack of concrete evidence. There are no Roman historical records that mention the existence of a lost legion, and no other archaeological evidence has been found to support this theory. Additionally, the physical distance between Rome and China would have made travel and communication very difficult, and it is unclear how a group of Romans would have been able to survive and integrate into a foreign society. Plus, the physical characteristics of the local population could be the result of a number of different factors, and there is no conclusive evidence that suggests they are of European origin. Some historians have suggested that the theory of the lost Roman legion in Liqian is a modern myth and has been perpetuated by popular culture. The story has been featured in a number of books, documentaries, and movies, which may have helped to fuel the interest in the theory. Obviously, without any further evidence, this theory remains a mystery. Number 19. The Siberian Ice Maiden. The Siberian Ice Maiden, also known as Princess Ukak, is an incredibly well-preserved mummy of a young woman who lived over 2,500 years ago in the Altai Mountains of Siberia in present-day Russia. The discovery of the Ice Maiden is considered one of the most significant archaeological finds of the 20th century. The discovery of the Ice Maiden has revealed many insights about the ancient culture of the Altai Mountains. The mummy was found in a wooden sarcophagus dressed in a richly decorated outfit made of felt, leather, and woven fabrics. Her head was adorned with a headdress made of gold leaf, and she was buried with an array of valuable artifacts, including bronze ornaments, a mirror, and a decorated ceremonial cup. The Ice Maiden is thought to have been a member of the ancient Paziric culture, which flourished in the Altai Mountains from the 5th to the 3rd centuries BC. The Paziric were a nomadic people who lived in the region and were known for their elaborate burials and use of horses in warfare. While the cause of the Ice Maiden's death is unknown, some researchers have suggested that she may have been a victim of a ritual sacrifice, as her burial included a number of sacrificial animals, including horses, cows, and sheep. Others theorize that she may have died from natural causes, as no visible signs of injury or illness were found on her body. The richness of the Ice Maiden's burial and the complexity of her outfit suggest that she was a high-status individual, possibly a priestess or a tribal leader. Her headdress in particular is thought to be a symbol of power and authority, as well as a representation of the sun and the moon. The discovery of the Siberian Ice Maiden has been controversial in some circles, as the excavation of the burial site was seen as sacrilegious by some members of the Altai community. In addition, the use of the mummy for scientific research has been criticized by some who believe that the remains should be left undisturbed. And finally, number 20, the Yonaguni Monument. The Yonaguni Monument, also known as the Yonaguni Underwater Ruins, is a submerged rock formation located off the coast of Yonaguni, the southernmost of the Ryukyu Islands in Japan. I definitely butchered that. The Yonaguni Monument is considered by some to be a possible example of a sunken civilization or lost city. The formation is roughly rectangular in shape and is made of various terraces, steps, and platforms. Some of these structures appear to have been cut and shaped by human hands, while others resemble natural formations. So let's dive into some of these theories. There's the natural formation theory. Some experts believe that the Yonaguni Monument is a natural formation that has been shaped by erosion and tectonic activity over millions of years. They argue that the flat surfaces and straight edges of the structure are the result of natural processes, such as the fracturing and folding of rocks. Then, obviously, my favorite, the man-made structure theory. This argues that the Yonaguni Monument is a man-made structure that was built by an ancient advanced civilization. They point to the various terraces, steps, and platforms that appear to have been cut and shaped by human hands, as well as the presence of what appear to be carvings and tool marks. Obviously, since this is so far underwater, it would have been before the rising sea levels, and would put the date of this ancient civilization far past what we previously have thought who would have been capable of making such a structure. There is also the underwater ruins theory. Some proponents of the man-made structure theory suggest that the Yonaguni Monument is part of a larger network of underwater ruins located throughout the Pacific. They argue that these ruins are remnants of a lost civilization that predates known human history. And finally, the geological formation theory. This theory proposes that the Yonaguni Monument is a natural geological formation that has since been altered by humans in recent history. According to this theory, the structure may have been used for fishing or religious purposes by the local population. Wow, and that wraps up the final tier of the Ancient Mysteries Iceberg. Thank you to everybody that's been watching. It's been a lot of fun getting to do this iceberg, and I really appreciate everybody watching these videos and commenting. There are some other Ancient Mysteries icebergs that are out there that have completely different topics, so we might be covering those in the future. I think for now we're going to take a break from the icebergs and maybe get into some long-form essay videos about various topics that we find interesting. I think next on the list will be the lost years of Jesus. I find this a fascinating topic and have some pretty interesting theories regarding this. I just want to remind y'all about the Discord server that we have open. It's been a lot of fun getting to talk and get to know everybody. If you want to join the community, there will be a link down in the description, and really hope to see you there. If you do want to support my channel, I do have a Patreon open, but what means the most to me is you watching and enjoying these videos. So I really do appreciate it, and we'll see you in the next video.